Welcome to This Week in Wrestling History.
All right, everyone, welcome back to another episode of Fur Traders, the only podcast for buying, selling, and trading of Furbies. We're your hosts, Ryan and Jacob.
That might be your best one so far.
Thank you. All right, Wrestling History Podcast. This Week in Wrestling History. Wrestling History Podcast is our Gmail.
And pretty much everything else.
All right, everyone knows where to find us. Not going to bother with that. Anyways, so what's going on this week?
Nothing really major. I mean, are we talking like what we're going to talk about or like...
Yeah, whatever you got. Anything right now?
Yeah, nothing major. I mean, they announced the stuff for the G1, which
the
should
brackets
be fun.
for G1. That's nifty. So
some of the matches look pretty interesting. Like, we get Jon Moxley versus Juice again.
Yeah.
We get Moxley versus Ishii at some point, which I feel like that's just going to be
But I'd say that'll be two guys just beating the ever-loving crap out of each other.
That's a concussion waiting to happen somewhere.
Yeah, that'll be unfortunate.
And I'm pretty sure we get Moxley versus Okada at some point.
Are they in the same bracket? Interesting. Oh, that'll be good. Is Okada the champ right now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I honestly did not remember, and that's kind of sad.
Because Jay White took it off
Tanahashi, who took it off Kenny.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then...
The New Japan title has changed a lot this year, within the last year.
Yeah.
I forgot Kenny actually lost it last year, didn't he? No, he lost it this year.
Yeah, he lost it at Wrestle Kingdom this year.
Right, so it was this year that there's been a lot of title changes for New Japan.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, it's been, 6 months and there's only been 4?
But that's a ton for New Japan.
True, but, I mean, again, Okada's had 6? Is he on his 6th reign now?
That sounds right to me. Don't quote me on it. I'm not a guy that remembers those sorts of numbers of things, but that sounds correct.
Let me see. So we have... Moxley and Okada are in 2 different brackets.
Oh, all right. So, not so much.
We'll get Moxley versus Naito. That's the one I was thinking of.
So that'll be good. So, funny thing, coming off Dominion from a week or two ago, the Ibushi Naito match is getting a lot of blowback because
of how awful some of those spots were.
Right, like it was a really great match theoretically, but some of the moves they were doing were just risking the two guys' health a little bit more than everyone's really comfortable for at this point, and they're kind of like, we need you to stop this. We like you guys. We like you guys a lot. Because we like you, we want you to be around for a while.
Right.
And not break your neck. Stop.
Stop dropping people on their heads. Stop breaking necks.
Yeah, exactly. There's we're done. We're kind of over this. Stop. Take care of yourselves. You can entertain us without killing yourself. Because no one wants the next Shibata where someone actually has a massive traumatic brain injury in the middle of the ring.
He was so good too.
Yeah,
like you want to talk about strong style.
He was poised to be kind of one of their next breakout guys.
Yeah, but it's good to see him back too, coming out with Kenta.
Yeah, so
that's another one. I mean, looking at the A block for the G1, we're gonna get Kenta versus Okada. We're gonna get Kenta versus Ospreay. We're gonna get Kenta and Sanada and Tanahashi. Kenta Ibushi and Kenta versus Evil.
Gee, so yeah, G1 is looking to be really good this year. So, all right. So what do we got for the main meat of things here today?
King of the Ring 2001. So, if I'm not mistaken, this has one of your personal favorite matches in it.
Yes, and the problem with this match, and it's the Shane McMahon Kurt Angle street fight match. The problem is every time I watch it, I cringe more and more and stop liking it for certain things.
You start to like it a little bit less the older you get.
Yeah, the older I get, the more I'm like, okay, God, what were you guys thinking? And I just start seeing. I stop seeing the cool spots and I start seeing everything that could have gone wrong. And it's just kind of like, do you guys understand how lucky you were to survive this?
Yeah, like the fact that Shane didn't break his neck.
Didn't break his neck
multiple times.
Let's hold off until we actually get to the match. We got some other stuff before that. So I was actually doing some digging, and I found some interesting news stuff that was kind of coming out around the time of this event that I think we can kind of preface this thing with. So we're kind of smack dab in the middle of the invasion storyline at this point.
Yeah, because the next pay-per-view after this, so it literally, I'm pretty sure it's less than a month, is the actual invasion pay-per-view.
Right. So actually, at this point, coming into the event, the plan was that Monday Night Raw was going to become WCW Raw.
Ew.
That was actually the plan. So the week after this pay-per-view was the infamous Booker T Bagwell match that got the whole thing scrapped.
Where they actually switched over to making it look like WCW.
Uh-huh.
So it was going to be WCW Raw and WWF SmackDown.
Yep.
Ugh.
And then that match happened, and they're like, well, that's not happening now.
I mean, it would have been fine with Booker T versus literally anybody else.
Yeah.
I mean, Booker T and DDP would have been a much better match.
Yes,
And
that would have been
that's-
a great match. But...
And that's, what, two of the top guys in WCW?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. What else do we have in the news here? So, yep, talking about the brand split. So apparently this was the first King of the Ring pay-per-view that Lawler, first and only, that Lawler wasn't involved with.
Interesting.
Right, and weird thing going on at this time, a lot of the top talent wasn't around. So Rock was off filming Scorpion King during this time.
Okay.
And Triple H had just pulled his quad a week or two before on Raw.
Oh, that's right. When he, like, died and disappeared for...
Almost a year.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, I mean, they still had Jericho. They still had Stone Cold. And they still had Kurt. So they had...
Well, Kurt was still kind of coming up. He was just about to start really breaking into the main event, but he wasn't quite there yet.
But he had already had his title run.
No.
I thought they had mentioned that he was, at this point, already...
I think Eurocontinental champion is what he was. I don't think he had ever held a world title yet.
Okay.
So, a couple other interesting kind of behind-the-scene notes. So, this was right around the time that WWF actually changed their developmental territory from, it used to be, let's see, UPW and IWA in Puerto Rico over to OVW and Heartland Wrestling Association.
Okay.
So OVW, kind of famously where a lot of big names came from.
Yeah, I mean, Brock, Shelton Benjamin, Batista, Cena.
Mm-hmm.
How could I forget that one?
So UPW is where Cena actually originally came from, but yeah, he got switched over to OVA. So the other big thing was they also cut 8 performers from developmental contracts.
Really?
Yes. That was Brian Keck, never heard of him. Mike Howell, never heard of him. Sylvester Turkey. That he actually ended up on TV for a little while.
He did. I don't remember much of what he did, but...
Yeah. Pete Gass. No, not Pete Gass.
Pete Gass again.
Yeah. Jason Arndt, no idea who that is. Adam Birch, no idea who that is. Christian York, I remember he was part of a really no-name tag team in ECW and then came into WWF for like 2 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Never really did anything. Shooter Schultz, never heard of him.
No.
Rodney York, I'm wondering if that's Rodney from Rodney and Pete Gass, the other part of the
Could be.
Mean Street Posse.
Could be.
I would guess. Spanky, a.k.a. Brian Kendrick, he would eventually come back as Brian Kendrick, well, as Spanky and then as Brian Kendrick.
Yeah, he wasn't Spanky for very long.
Right. He ended up teaming with Paul London. They did okay. And then there was one more guy. They don't actually give his real name. They just call him American Dragon.
DB?
Yeah.
Really?
Yes.
All the way back in 2001?
Yeah. So in 2001.
Wow.
So that was because DB and Kendrick were from HBK's
Oh, that's
training
right.
school. Yeah.
I forgot HBK trains.
Yeah. Both of
Kendrick.
them. How effing weird that they had him signed
Wow.
in 2001.
Real quick before you go forward.
Yeah.
At this point, Kurt Angle had held the belt once. He won it right after King of the Ring in 2000.
Oh, when he won King of the Ring, then won the title, and then I'm guessing dropped it real quick right after.
The Rock won it at King of the Ring 2000. Kurt Angle won it in October of that year and held it for 120 something days.
All right, so he had a decent run the previous year. All right,
Yep.
I stand corrected.
And then he would actually later this year, because this is in this was June 24th, 01.
Mm-hmm.
Come September 23rd, he would win it again at Unforgiven.
Oh, all right. So let me.
You're still right, because he now probably just takes off after this title reign and kind of kicks it into gear.
Yeah. So also after this event, or around this time, is when things with China kind of started going south, which it seemed like there was like a couple strikes against China looking back. First off, she had become real popular,
Yeah.
but her work wasn't real good. And apparently she was becoming a bit of a ego backstage about it.
I mean, look at who she's around in DX. There's plenty of ego there for
This was
feed into it.
But this was also around the time that Hunter and Stephanie were officially becoming a thing.
Oh.
Yeah.
And that whole thing happened.
Yeah, it's not exactly an easy situation for anyone. So it wasn't a great time for her. See if there's anything else here in the news worth mentioning. There was some New Japan stuff going on at the time because this is a really rough time for New Japan when they were struggling.
The dark ages of New Japan.
Yeah, exactly. So,
which, I mean, look at how far they've come since then. I mean,
oh yeah,
they're rivaling at some point. I wouldn't say rivaling the WWE in the United States, but they're starting to garner enough attention coming into the States.
Yeah.
Like the fact that the first round of the G1 is in Dallas. Like this is the first time that's ever happened.
All right. So last bit of news that I was able to find here. Weird question. Is Jack Evans currently in AEW? Was he the guy teaming with Angelico?
Yeah.
Okay. So there was some not really a backyard federation, but kind of a backyard federation in Canada called matrats.com. And Jack Evans was apparently hospitalized after the valet of the opposing team gave him a reverse Hurricane Rana and he landed on the top of his head and he was motionless and knocked out.
Oh.
Only interesting thing to note here was, yes, Jack Evans is currently in AEW, but the valet of the opposing team happened to be one Natty Neidhart.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So, apparently hit the old reverse Rana, and Jack spiked himself on his head, and there we go. So,
Actually, right here. Evans made his debut in September of 2000 against Tiger Redding. He then began wrestling in Matt Rat's promotion, which was set up by
Jim Neidhart?
Eric Bischoff.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So this must have been what Bischoff did between WCW and coming back to Raw.
Yeah, because that was in mid to late 2000, 2001-ish. So this is right as this is happening.
Oh, okay.
As King of the Ring is happening, as I point to the screen like everybody knows that I'm talking
just
about it.
To the screen, yep.
But yeah, it was apparently... it was set up by Matt Rat's promotion was set up by Eric Bischoff.
Interesting. All right. I lied. There's actually two more things here in the news that I found. The other one was Tough Enough. The original one debuted.
Oh, and that was when it was like the legit reality show.
Right, when it was actually a reality TV show. Winner of that would be Maven and Nydia.
Ugh.
Yeah, those should never ever really went on anything.
Well,
All
Maven did go on to do something. get beat up by the Undertaker.
And, yeah. All right. The very last thing to mention here is there was a TV taping in Atlanta around this time where someone got a tryout but wasn't picked up. Would you like to guess who?
Is it somebody currently wrestling for WWE?
Yes.
Is it a champion in WWE?
Not currently, but former.
Is it somebody who's wrestled in New Japan?
Yes.
AJ Styles.
Correct. I'm about to say your big hint there was Atlanta. So,
Man.
Right. Yeah. AJ actually had a tryout at a house show or at a TV taping and even apparently hit the Styles Clash during it.
Well, that would
I think it was this must have been the one where it was against Hurricane Helms.
Yeah. Yeah, because that would make sense because he was with WCW.
Yep.
WCW gets bought.
Right.
And then just shortly after this King of the Ring invasion area is when TNA starts.
Exactly.
And
So
AJ was with TNA from the very first pay-per-view.
Right. So at this time he was kind of looking for work though.
Which, I mean, makes sense, but
right. So.
You know, I'm not glad about TNA for very many things. I don't thank them for very many things.
Yeah.
But I thank them for AJ Styles and Samoa Joe.
Right. They provided a platform for some new talent that needed a platform.
Yeah. I mean,
they may or may not have ever handled them properly, but
AJ
they gave some people a start.
Joe,
I will give them credit for Christian as well.
Yeah. I mean,
as being a main event single star.
Yeah, because I think without that, I don't think WWE would have put the belt on him.
Exactly. I think he needed to leave and kind of prove his worth somewhere else and then kind of come back and be like, hey, look, I'm worth something after all.
Yeah. And, of course, we get Chris Daniels and Frankie.
Oh, yeah, SCU.
I mean, like I said, I'm not
got the
very...
Bucks out of them, too, kind of.
Yeah, Generation Me.
Yeah.
Ugh. We got Okada from them.
No, we did not. We got Okata.
Yeah, with a T instead of a D.
Yeah. No, we almost didn't get Okada because of them.
Yeah.
So, yeah, apparently New Japan is still really upset about that.
Yeah. Which I think they're starting to kind of glass over it a little bit because...
No, apparently, so Davey Boy Smith Jr. apparently just quit New Japan to go work for Impact, and he quit because New Japan wouldn't let him work with Impact because they were still upset over TNA's treatments of Okada.
Yikes. Okay.
Yeah, it's apparently
I was going to say
a thing.
I thought it was going to start sliding down a bit because of Callis.
Nope. They're still fully on that's TNA. We hate TNA. Look what they did to our guy.
Yeah. Oh, well, okay.
I'm hard-pressed to blame them. Maybe it's time to let water or bygones be bygones, let water under the bridge or whatever the saying is. But anyways, so let's move on to King of the Ring 2001 here finally, shall we?
The actual thing that we were supposed to be talking about?
Yes, the actual thing we're here for today. So King of the Ring 2001, first pay-per-view after Mania.
Yeah.
So we're kind of on the heels of that. We're actually doing the King of the Ring tournament.
Wait, this was the first pay-per-view after Mania?
I believe so.
Man, they used to have big gaps in between pay-per-views.
Yes.
There wasn't one every month.
No, there may have been, let me check. There may have actually been a in-your-house type thing in between it. Let me pull up the information.
I mean, weren't we talking just recently about how WWE needs to scale back?
I stand corrected. Judgment Day happened in between them.
Okay, but still. Mania's in April.
Yep.
And
This
then
was June. This was the end of June, so Mania must have been in early March this year.
Yeah, so, I mean, in 3 months, we get 2 pay-per-views after Mania.
Yeah.
It's definitely better than what they're doing now, where there's a pay-per-view every month with a new stupid name.
Yes. I mean, yes, at least back in this day, they were kind of good about keeping their titles, but...
I mean, Stomping Ground was...
that's so bad. Is that this week?
Yeah, it's tomorrow.
Oh, well, all right.
I mean, it's better than Great Balls of Fire.
I mean, anything is better than that. I feel like we probably should have paid a little bit more attention to the current product in covered Stomping Ground, but at the same time, I don't think we should give the current product much more attention because
So you want me to run down the card for Stomping Ground real quick?
Afterwards.
It'll be super quick.
Okay.
It's the exact same thing as the pay-per-view that was in Saudi Arabia minus the IC title match.
Oh.
And the Battle Royale.
Okay, then.
It's almost exactly the same.
All right. Okay, so King of the Ring 2001. We're actually doing the King of the Ring tournament still.
Which I kind of liked.
Yeah, I always thought it was
that.
neat too. They don't have it for too terribly much longer, I think. I believe next year Booker wins it, so we get King Booker.
Next year is the last. So it disappears.
Then it kind of becomes this ephemeral thing for a while.
Last year was the last King of the Ring pay-per-view, and then they started doing King of the Ring tournament in like the mid to late 2000s again.
Like just on TV without an actual pay-per-view.
That's when we got King Booker and Sharmell again.
And we also ended up with King Sheamus for a while and King Barrett.
And William Regal, I believe, won it later on.
Oh, yes, when he was general manager of Raw.
Yep.
Yeah. So, yeah, this is nearing its end as a pay-per-view event in and of itself. Anywho, so we have 2 semifinal matches in the finals tonight instead of so it used to be like an 8-man thing all in one night.
Yeah.
So, but now it's just the semifinals and finals. So we got 4 guys, and it's all of Team Wreck.
They did the original or the first round on Raw the 2 weeks before, I think.
Yeah. It was definitely something they were building up to because it's all of Team Wreck. Rhino, Edge, Christian, and Kurt. And in the first round, it's Kurt versus Christian, and then Edge versus Rhino, and then the winner of those 2 matches in the finals. So
I kind of forgot that they were like a legit little team
faction. Yeah. And it was definitely weird because they were all heels. So we have an all heel like tournament, which is weird. But Kurt is kind of getting the face thing because he's the anti WCW guy.
Right. And Christian or Edge is getting the face treatment because
he's the pretty boy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is odd to say.
Right. It is.
Edge being the pretty boy.
Well, so we were still, as we will come to find soon, we're nearing the final days of Edge and Christian as a team, but
rip.
Yeah. So very first match of the evening is one of our semifinal matches. It's Kurt Angle defeating Christian. And about midway through the match, Kurt gives himself a concussion.
Shocking.
This is Kurt's first of 3 matches tonight. And in the first match, he gives himself a concussion. That's a great start.
Well, and I was looking at it, too. It's also his shortest match of the night.
Yeah, shortest match at almost 8.5 minutes.
Yeah. The next match goes 10.5.
Yeah, and then his final one goes almost a half hour.
Right.
It's like 26 minutes.
I mean, if anybody could go, actually keep up that long, it would be Kurt. However, with a concussion...
That's rough, but he does.
Which is...
He's fine as far as we can tell.
And then later on in the night taking some pretty awful shots, but we'll get to that with the later match.
So, kind of just as a brief thing, this entire pay-per-view, the matches were pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, I had a lot of fun watching some of this stuff.
Right. If you just watch this just for the matches, you're in for a treat. Here's the weird thing. If you look at this in like the broader scope of what was happening in WWF at the time, this is a really weird and not great pay-per-view.
Yeah, it's funny because it's a lower mid-tier pay-per-view.
Yeah, it's a B-tier show,
but yet I think we're desensitized from what good wrestling actually is with the current product.
Yeah,
because if this was their worst stuff, how could you?
So it wasn't. This wasn't their worst stuff. This was actually some of their better wrestling at the time. It's just for some weird reason this did not serve the greater purpose of what they were doing. Overall.
Oh, I see what you're saying. It didn't serve anything for the stories.
Exactly. Storyline, it's in a weird spot. So we'll get to that a little bit later. So Kurt defeats Christian in the first match. Then we have our next we should say Shane McMahon interferes in this match and costs Christian the match. And this annoyed me. So our announcers are Jim Ross and Paul Heyman. they are completely baffled as to why Shane would help Kurt win this match. At one point, Christian is just about to win it. Shane pulls Christian off for the cover and costs him the match and yada, yada, yada. And they're just completely baffled. They're like, well, why on earth would he do that? Well, that's just so... It's because if Kurt wins the King of the Ring semifinal...
He then has to have another match.
Exactly.
And it's going to take more out of him for Shane and Kurt's match later on in the night.
Exactly. Like, it's plain as day. JR should have been baffled by it. Heyman, the crafty, cunning guy, should have picked up on it and been like, I know what he's doing.
Right.
He's wearing him out. He's forcing Kurt to have another match before his tonight. He may have only had 2 matches if he had lost this one, but now he'll have 3.
Yeah, and even in the second match, they don't bring that up at all. They're still baffled by it.
Well, yeah, we'll cover that a little bit more when we hit it. So our next semifinal match, Edge versus Rhino. And you're wincing because we have the street fight on, and we currently just hit that part.
Yeah. I never get used to seeing that.
No. It's not. It's the very first bump where they try to put Shane through the glass, and
the glass
he just
doesn't
hits
break.
it. I'm glad we don't have the sound on because the sound is way more offensive than the actual visual. If you can believe that, the visual's bad. It's literally a coconut sound. Like it sounds like someone just dropped a coconut onto a hardwood floor. It's bad when his head hits the concrete. Yeesh. Because you hear just the hollow thud is not good.
Ooh, and he gets cut up pretty... So, hang on.
Okay.
Before we keep going, they're not using breakaway glass for this? Like they...
Oh, we'll get to it.
Oh, my Lord.
We'll get to it. We should actually pause this so that we can talk about it. We can play it when we get to it.
Okay.
All right. So, anyways, second match of the evening, Edge defeats Rhino in another King of the Ring match. This was actually rated, as far as ratings go, the worst match on the card, and it was still like 2.5 stars. Out of 5.
I mean,
it was good. It wasn't amazing, but it was good.
I could see that. I mean, Edge, as a singles competitor, always has solid matches.
Right.
Rhino, as a singles competitor, always has solid matches.
So here was the thing. This match was actually, I thought, way better than this rating gave it. Rhino was working super smart, doing stuff we don't normally see. He put a body scissors on Edge.
Yeah.
They removed the middle turnbuckle cover at one point and whip Edge into it. So he takes it like chest first. And they're really selling Rhino working the upper body, setting him up for the gore, like wearing down his ribs, hurting his upper body.
Which is funny because it comes into play later on.
Exactly. And it's just a really great little match with a lot of psychology. And it's done really well by 2 really good wrestlers. Like Rhino... He was a main event ECW guy, but I don't necessarily know if that's ever really hit. I don't know if he was that good, but he was definitely upper card good.
I mean, he had main event runs in Impact after he left WWE. And, I mean, granted, it was him facing pretty much ECW guys again.
Yeah.
But he still had a pretty solid run, and his matches in Impact were pretty good.
Yeah, he's kind of one of those guys that no one ever really remembers to bring up in a conversation, but whenever you kind of see him, you're like, oh yeah, I forgot how good he is type thing.
Yeah.
So, all right. Then we would go to our match for the WWF Tag Team Championships. Ugh, I can really speak this morning. All right. It's the Dudley Boys defending against Spike Dudley and a mystery partner. Mystery partner would end up being Kane.
When his music hit and the fire hit, it was so funny watching the Dudley Boys' reaction to it, and JR and Paul Heyman being like, "Uh-oh,
ruh-roh." Yeah,
because this is back when Kane hadn't he just come back?
I don't remember where this is in the chronology. So no, they actually recently. Kane was recently tag team champs with Undertaker as Brothers of Destruction.
That's right.
So, yeah, they had just lost the tag team titles as Brothers of Destruction, and I'm guessing they lost them to the Dudleys.
That now makes more sense because this is Kane coming in with the new suit,
right? It
like
wasn't
bodysuit, the new face mask,
right? It was, instead of the full red outfit with a little bit of black trim and 2 long sleeves, it was one sleeve, much more black and kind of like fishnet mesh on it, and just looking a lot more, a lot more 2000s, a lot less early 90s, which is weird because he didn't come around till the mid to late 90s. Anywho, not a great match, but a fine match.
Yeah, I mean, it's always fun to see Spike Dudley get lawn darted everywhere.
Yeah, so it was kind of nice of them to actually use that as an offensive move. So the Dudleys were on the outside. Kane picks up Spike and launches them into the Dudleys on the outside. So that was a thing. Dudleys win with 3D, pull out a table, and then Spike gets...
Spike's about to get
put through the table. Then Kane comes in, power bombs Devon, and then chokeslams Bubba through the table.
Yeah, it was one of those where, and I still don't understand it. Spike Dudley being a super over as a babyface.
It's so weird.
Baffling to me. And the fact that they had Kane come in and save Spike, the crowd freaking loved it.
Oh, yeah. So what I really, the only real complaint about this match I had was I forgot they had renamed Spike's finisher from the acid drop to the Dudley Dog.
Yeah, that's right. That's just an awful name for anything, really.
Right. And so I get that you can't call it the acid drop, which is a really obtuse reference anyways. So the etymology of this comes from Little Spike Dudley, initials being LSD, so therefore his finisher is the acid drop, because it's acid. Yeah,
ECW.
Yeah, but say ECW drug references were edgy. Okay, got it. But the Dudley Dog, that was just brutal.
So, now correct me if I'm wrong, it was just where he would run up the turnbuckle, do a backflip while holding opponent's head and do like a backwards almost.
It's Kendrick's sliced bread number 2.
Oh, okay. That makes more sense.
Yeah.
Which, that's also a really dumb name.
Well, it's the best thing since sliced bread.
But it's number 2.
Well, so that's why it's sliced bread number 2, because it's the second
best thing to sliced bread.
Well, after sliced bread, this is the next best thing.
So
this is the new thing that you're going to compare everything to, because it's sliced bread number 2.
So dumb.
Apparently this move, the run up the turnbuckle into a cutter, is just so tough to describe and name that it has to be given the worst names ever. The Dudley Dog and sliced bread number 2.
I mean, it's a good move, especially for some cruiserweights.
Honestly, I think it would almost be better for some bigger guys.
Yeah, like could you imagine
But actually, I think you're right. It is good for cruisers to use on bigger guys because it doesn't involve them lifting them at all.
Right.
And it's reasonable for them to pull someone down with that much like momentum on their side.
Yeah. I mean, I could see somebody like Finn using it. I could even see somebody a little bit bigger like Andrade using it.
Yeah.
But, I mean, having somebody like Roman use it?
Yeah, okay, maybe not that. I think you're right. Just stick it to the cruisers. But yeah, it's a good move for a cruiser to use it. I could see someone taking down Big Show with that.
Yeah.
Just fine.
Well, biggest guy I could see using it would probably be The Miz.
Oh, yeah.
I think that would be a solid move for somebody like The Miz to have.
I think it would be kind of good for him to use as like his super finisher. Like, all right, we're normally going to do the skull crushing finale. When that fails, we got this because it kind of targets the same part of the body.
At Mania, I've just hit Shane McMahon with 2 skull crushing finales. He's not staying down. Let me hit him with this. Okay, that's it.
Yeah. And it's flashy enough then. Yeah. That would have worked. So, all right. After the tag match, well, we gave these guys like 15 minutes to rest. Now it's Kurt versus Edge for in the finals of the King of the Ring.
It was a really good match.
Yeah, well, shocking. It's Edge and Kurt.
Right.
Like, how bad could this have been?
If those two ever put on a match that's less than 3 stars, I'd be shocked.
Right. Then one of them has, well, something worse than a concussion because, well, this was Kurt with a concussion and still doing great.
Which still dumbfounds me that Kurt's head is completely rattled and he's still this good.
Oh, yeah. It's the level, which is really sad, kind of looking at his Mania match.
That That should not have happened. He should have ended everything after his little run with the Shield.
Yeah,
Like that should have been it.
It's really sad to see where he ended up.
Or they should have.
It's like there's no shame in getting old. There's the only shame in pushing your career further than it should be pushed.
Or if they were going to do the final retirement match at WrestleMania 35, put him against somebody who can carry him. Like,
right.
Oh, I don't know, Samoa Joe, which he has history with.
Yeah, Corbin just wasn't the right guy for that match. Like I don't even have any problem with him putting over Corbin. It's just that was not the right guy for that match.
Right. You had four better choices at the time that could have carried Kurt through that.
Yeah.
AJ, Joe, Cena, and Ray.
And he has history with all of them.
Right.
Well, does he have history with Ray?
They
may have crossed paths, but I don't think not as much as the other one.
They had a world title match. That's the one where Ray took the world heavyweight title.
Yeah, but I still don't feel like it's quite on the same level as the other three, but still. I'm not sure Ray would have been the right choice either, but
he could have. It would have been better than what Corbin and Kurt were able to put together.
Sure. So we end up with a lot of wonkiness in this match. So Christian comes out and pseudo interferes, which doesn't really make a ton of sense. But then, while Christian's out interfering, Shane comes out and spears Kurt, and then Edge hits the execution, or the Impaler DDT, or whatever we're calling it this week.
Which, can I just say, very underrated move. I don't know why I like that so much.
Yeah, I liked it.
It's simple. It looks safe, but it also seems like it could be very
really hit someone
bad.
too. Yeah.
Right.
My only thing that I dislike about it is the fact that Edge named all of his moves something really effing stupid every time.
Something with Edge listed in them?
Yeah. So this was the execution, and then I forgot what his stupid...
His sharpshooter was the educator or something
like that? Yeah, the reverse sharpshooter was something else, Edge something. But yeah, they were just bad. So Edge is your king of the ring. This would lead almost immediately to the split of ENC, unfortunately.
Yep. Because after the match happens, so Edge ends up winning.
Yep.
And after the match, Edge is being interviewed in the background, or in the backstage area, and Christian comes running up and he goes, "Hey man, I just wanted to let you know that the only reason I came down was to help you."
Right. And he's like, well, right, of course you did. Why else would you have come down? Why did you need to even say that?
Well, it's because I wanted you to know that I was just trying to help you.
Right. Did I need to be concerned about anything? Right, like...
And then Christian just turns around and walks away, and Edge is like, okay.
Huh. All right, then. Yeah, I don't know if it was the next night on Raw or the next week on Raw, where I think the next night they're still together and they stay together because... I mean... Then that's where Christian's kind of like carrying the trophy around, quote-unquote, for Edge, but he's kind of making himself seem like the King of the Ring winner. And then I think it's the next week where he slams him with the trophy.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure, don't they have a match at... No, they don't have a match at Invasion. Christian interferes in Edge's match, I believe.
And I think it was for the IC title or something.
Yeah, because we talked about that.
Yeah, this was the start of Edge's singles push.
Yeah, Edge faces Regal for the IC belt and wins it.
Yep.
Even though Christian interfered.
Right.
That's what it was.
I think they were actually talking about this match this week on the ENC Pot of Awesomeness. I'm trying to remember what exactly the story was. It was either that Christian barely tapped Edge with the trophy and he oversold it. And I think that was Christian's view on it. And I think what actually happened was Christian absolutely crushed Edge with the damn thing. He's like, damn, man, why are you selling this thing so hard? And he's like, you freaking killed me with it.
Yeah, because they were talking about that, and Christian's rebuttal to it was, you hit your friends a little harder.
Yeah, it was really good. So obviously, if you're listening to us, you should probably listen to the ENC show, but just in case you don't, definitely do so.
I mean, considering Lance Storm is on it.
It was a really good episode.
Yeah. I mean, any time I get to hear Lance's backstage stuff, it's always fantastic.
Oh, yeah. And it was really funny listening to them talk about how Christian and Lance used to ride together, but they didn't have anything in common. So they're like...
Other than wrestling.
Yeah, there's like, all right, well, we're both wrestlers. Otherwise, we don't really get along. We have nothing in common. But and it sounded like it was really funny still. So, all right. I think it was between this match and the next match that The Undertaker came out and answered DDP's challenge.
What's the next match?
Jeff Hardy versus X-Pac for the light heavyweight championship.
It was after this match.
Okay, so, all right, up next then we have Jeff Hardy, our light heavyweight champion, versus X-Pac.
Okay match.
It was a quick little thing, but yeah, it was good.
I forgot how ugly that belt was.
Not a great belt.
Better than the 24/7 CPF world title.
Anything is better than... Oh, did they change the strap on that recently?
It's Velcro.
No, to black.
No, it's still green.
Oh, because like EC3 showed a photo of it that looked black.
The back of it is now black.
Change the front too.
Change the entire belt.
I mean, it would not be great. Like, it's still going to be a bad belt if it's a black strap, but it would be a lot better.
Yeah. Just change the belt completely.
I mean, as ugly as the main titles are sometimes, my biggest complaint, besides the thing looking like a Frisbee, is that there's just no continuity of the title.
No, there really isn't. It's like every piece of the title is different.
Right, and it just looks so starkly different from any... I absolutely love the NXT UK belts.
Yeah.
And they look a lot like the main title still.
I mean, this 24/7 belt is worse than the Cruiserweight belt. And the Cruiserweight belt ain't great.
No, it's not great. But they need to have a central theme to their titles, so you look at a title and go, that's a WWE championship.
Yeah. I mean, this 24/7, if it didn't have that little WWE up at the top, you would think that it was a gold record somebody pulled off of a wall.
Right. Exactly. You would think it was a custom belt someone had made for a singer.
Or their backyard wrestling or fantasy football thing.
Yeah, exactly. You'd think it was something they just ordered offline for a few $100, and not something that is a professional belt that probably costs thousands of dollars.
Ugh.
Anyways.
Oh, real quick, speaking of which, we're supposed to be getting new tag titles soon.
Oh, yeah, they had mentioned that at some point.
I guess they're waiting for the new whoever wins them next to introduce them, which sounds like it may be the Club.
It should be the Club.
Sounds
like the Club might be starting to be a thing again. So
at least for the Raw belts.
Yeah. All right, which again they should do because those tag team belts stick out like a sore thumb when you look at. If you look at the two main men's belts and the two main women's belts, they all look very, very, very similar.
Yeah,
whether you like the design or not, cool. At least we're on theme.
Right, it's the same belt, different color strap.
Yeah,
or the women's belt, same strap, different background.
Right. Hey, totally fine. Whether you like it or not, at least they're unified in their visual theme.
Right.
Which is kind of important when you're trying to like brand your company and stuff. But
yeah.
Anyways. So yeah, light heavyweight championship match. I mean, honestly, there's nothing tremendous to write home about. It's got the awful X-Pac X Factor theme.
Yeah.
From Uncle Cracker, but it was a good match. Just nothing really to highlight, I'd say. Cause
yeah, I mean, if these two guys had gotten a little bit more time around 2000, 2001, they probably would have put on some really good stuff.
So everyone talks about X-Pac heat where it's just the crowd hates them. The dude was not bad in the ring.
No.
He was typically the guy that, like, he was Jericho's first feud because they wanted to make sure Jericho was able to work a WWF style. And X-Pac's a good guy for that. If you look back when he was in the NWO, he was the guy they would put into matches to kind of make sure there was someone that could actually carry the match wrestling-wise against guys like Rodman, against guys like Karl Malone and Jay Leno. And he was kind of the guy that he would make someone look good, whether that person knew what they were doing or not.
Yeah, I wouldn't put him Brett level at that.
No, I wouldn't either, but
he was... I would put him at Lance Storm level with that.
Probably. I would say that people usually probably, in their head, rate him somewhere between a 3, maybe a 4 or a 5 out of 10, where in reality he's probably closer to like a 7, 8, a 9 maybe on a good night.
Yeah, I mean, any of the matches that he had probably against like... oh, God, who was one that he had just around this time? A bigger guy that he carried at Test.
Oh, yeah.
Test wasn't awful either.
No, but
he wasn't great for a big guy.
Yeah,
But X-Pac made those matches look like they could get 4 stars.
Right. And when he was feuding against Kane for a while too, like he was great at making his opponent look good. And honestly, as a wrestler, that's one of the biggest skills you need to have is making your opponent look good while still being fairly credible yourself.
Yeah.
Him winning against bigger guys wasn't usually a giant upset. He was a believable threat still, even though he's a light heavyweight.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, definitely.
all right. After this match was one of the things that really kind of, looking back historically, not good.
No, the Stalker stuff with DDP.
So it was bad to begin with. This was even worse.
Did they even have a match
No,
together?
no.
This was it.
They may have had a match later on. I thought you meant tonight on the show. At King of the Ring, no. Later on, possibly.
Or wasn't it? No, it was Kane and Undertaker versus DDP and Canyon.
Yes. I think DDP actually gets hurt soon after. I think you're correct.
Yeah, and they need Canyon to kind of step in and help DDP.
Yep. So what happened was at the start of the show, at the very, very start of the show, DDP comes out doing his thing where he's stalking the Undertaker's wife, and he comes out and challenges the Undertaker, and they almost kind of drop the stalker thing as far as making it creepy, saying, he basically comes out and says, I only did this to piss you off so you'd fight me and I'd make a name for myself here.
Yeah, he pulls the I'm coming into the toughest guy's yard because that's how I'm going to get famous. Undertaker, make me famous.
Right. So throughout the night, we start seeing kind of like hidden camera footage of DDP entering the ring, arriving at the city, entering the venue, yada yada, and he's getting really upset that someone's stalking me. How dare they? Blah blah blah. Okay, shockingly, it ends up being the Undertaker's wife.
Surprise, surprise.
And then Undertaker and his wife come down, and
Undertaker just...
It's not even a real match. It's Undertaker beating the piss out of DDP for 5 minutes.
While getting gassed in the first 2.
Yeah, it's Fat Biker Taker.
Yeah, before he came back in shape, or before he was in shape.
Yeah, before he got back into shape, and it was just not good. And more to the point, it just kills the damn angle.
Yeah, like that's it. It's done.
All right, well, the good guy got his revenge, and the bad guy got his comeuppance, so I guess we'll just move on to the next thing. Like, no, that's not what you're supposed to do with this angle.
That's not how any of story writing works.
Yes, that's not how this works. It's not how any of this works. But, yeah, so that was really dumb, and it kind of cut the legs out of the invasion thing.
Yeah, because, I mean, DDP was, like, aside from Booker T, like, the biggest star to come over.
Right, and arguably bigger than Booker T at the time.
Yeah, I mean, hindsight being 2020 here, Booker T would go on to be a little bit bigger.
It's because Booker T would go on to do more things in WWF.
Right, because
DDP really wouldn't. He'd kind of bleh and then retire.
Well, I mean, he was also, at this point, kind of old, wasn't he?
DDP didn't really even start... So he was in wrestling for a while, but he really didn't start doing much in the ring until his late 30s.
Which is old for wrestlers.
For wrestlers at this point in time.
Yeah. I mean...
Nowadays, it's not uncommon. AJ's about as old as DDP was when he started.
AJ's almost in his 40s.
I believe he is in his 40s.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, don't talk about people in their 40s like that. I'm pushing that soon.
You're not there yet.
I'm getting there. Anyways...
I call you old anyway.
Up next is the match that the show is basically known for, the street fight between Kurt Angle and Shane McMahon.
So, some of the stuff in this makes me wince.
Right.
Heavily.
So it's really good all around. I mean, obviously there's the one throwing through the glass spot that it's known for. But even before that, there's some really cool spots where, they start off and it's basically a brawl. But then Kurt starts going a little bit more old school wrestling. Like he starts kind of stretching him out.
So one of the spots that I enjoyed the most out of this was where Shane tries to pin Kurt and then Kurt just bridges out of it.
Uh-huh.
And then Shane stands up and is like, what the hell? And like drops an elbow on him. Kurt goes back down and then bridges back up again.
Yeah.
And then Shane double like hammer fists him, pins him straight back up again. Like just that little sequence, I was like, huh, that's pretty good.
So the little part I liked was they're going through, Kurt's just chucking Shane around. Shane takes a powder. Kurt just goes down on all fours, like old school, like gym class wrestling is like, cool, come get me. I'm giving you the free shot. Take my back from like the whole, I guess, referee's position, is it called, or something?
I think so.
Yeah, I'm not good enough with that part, but
I'll ask the dumb wrestler that occasionally listens to us. I'll ask him about it.
Sounds good. So, yeah, he basically gives Shane the upper hand. Shane comes in and like he takes it and immediately pays for it because, shockingly, Kurt's a better amateur wrestler than Shane.
Right. I'm pretty sure doesn't he do it again?
Well, that's what I was about to say. And then, like 2, 3, 4 minutes later, again, same thing happens. Kurt's like, cool, let's try this again. Shane looks at him a little tentatively and then just hauls off and kicks him in the ribs. It's like, no, I'm not doing that again. I know where this goes. F you, which, again, I just really liked that little bit of continuity there.
I mean, this whole pay-per-view, if for nothing else, has some really good ring psychology to it.
Oh, yeah. Like
all of the matches carry, like they make you pay attention to the matches because if you don't, you're going to be like, why is he holding his ribs?
Exactly. Like they have good plots kind of running through the show itself, through the matches themselves. Yeah, it's just, as far as in-ring work goes, King of the Ring 2001, great show to study.
Yeah.
So then they're fighting. It eventually goes outside.
Oh, and real quick, Shane's shooting star press.
Oh, yeah.
Not great looking.
No, not great.
But he did it.
Kurt hits his amazing moonsault, too, earlier in the match.
I mean,
where he gets like 8 million feet of air. So my one issue with Shane's shooting star press is the one that a lot of guys in the indies make, where he almost lands on the turn. Like he almost just does a backflip in place instead of going forward.
Yeah.
He almost caught his feet on the turnbuckle. And that's about the most tragic thing you could do doing that move.
Well, or being Brock Lesnar and doing the move.
Well, there is that too. All right, let's get to the glass spot.
Okay. So at this point, we're at the ring, or we're at the ramp.
Yep. We fought out to the little set piece they have.
Kurt picks up Shane to do a belly-to-belly suplex. Hucks Shane over his head. Shane hits a pane of glass and just falls straight on his head.
Yeah, the glass does not break. It just kind of gives a little bit, and Shane just bounces off of it and lands on his head. There's like a coconut noise that sounds like someone just hit a coconut with a hammer.
It's almost like the Monty Python bit. Where
Yeah, the coconuts for horseshoes. Yep. It's awful. And then Kurt picks him up again and hits a second one. And this time he goes through and shatters. But it's not a clean glass shatter. There are little tiny shards of super thin glass everywhere. And Kurt's shoulder is immediately sliced open in multiple places.
So is the side of Shane's face.
Yep.
And it's... So, again, why are you not using that safe break glass?
We'll get to that in just a second here. So, just because we're watching it, they're fighting underneath the set, and there's another pane of glass that they're trying to go back through. They chuck him the first time, misses, doesn't go through. They go a second time, chucks him, hits it. This time, thankfully, Kurt's prepared and catches Shane on the way down.
Yeah.
And it's just like, holy shit.
When Kurt goes to, after the second belly-to-belly.
Yeah, Kurt kind of...
He angles himself so that he's directly underneath where Shane is going to be.
Yes, he makes himself into a human crash pad.
And as Shane comes down, Shane manages to turn just a tad, and his shoulder lands on Kurt's chest.
Yeah, well, Kurt kind of guided him down.
Yeah.
He was like, oh, you didn't go through? Let's get you a safe landing from it. And then Kurt just rears back, and instead of trying to suplex him through, just throws him headfirst through it.
Which... I vaguely remember them talking about this on a table for 3 at one point, I think it is.
Uh-huh.
And Kurt goes, I was just getting more and more pissed off, and I just had to get you through that damn glass.
Oh, no. Kurt didn't want to, and Shane forced him. He was like, no, we're doing this. So last thing I want to mention before we actually start talking about the glass itself is when Kurt just like kind of hucks him through, like he's throwing him out, like he's removing him from a bar. Is you'll notice this was very similar to the barbershop incident with Shane and Marty Jannetty, or with Sean and Jannetty. At the very bottom of the frame, you'll notice there's still a big chunk of glass still there that's razor effing sharp.
Yeah.
So, in retrospect, now when I watch this is what bugs me most. It was supposed to be sugar glass, breakaway glass. Whoever the prop person was fucked up ordering it and ordered the wrong stuff. And it was stronger than normal glass. And when it shatters into this like billions of pieces, all of these pieces are super sharp and it slices the ever-loving shit out of these guys. And the fact they're rolling around in it is super dangerous. So they could have been sliced up.
Yeah.
So they were sliced up real bad.
I mean, if you look at the side of Shane's head at one point,
look at Kurt's shoulder. Like, look at the ground. At one point, Kurt slips and falls down. He leaves a pool of blood.
There's puddles of blood everywhere. Like it literally looks like a horror movie scene.
Like it looks like there was a car accident here, and this is just the two guys that survived in a pool of glass.
Yeah, and I mean,
it's stuck to them, and not only is it stuck to them, this shit's still sharp, and every time they roll around or do something, they could be slicing themselves up much more. Like, the fact these two guys escaped as unharmed as they did is a small miracle.
Yeah. I mean, the fact that, again, like you're saying, Kurt stands up to move one of those set boxes around, and he still has pieces of glass, like, straight up sticking out of his shoulder.
Yeah. It's really bad, and this is one of those things where it was super cool at the time. Looking back, I never want to see anything like it ever again.
And
kind of how we're talking about Naito and Ibushi earlier.
Right. And thankfully, I don't think that we will, because WWE, for all their faults, are very more conscious of the set props hurting their people.
So in the rumor that always floats around, and I hesitate to even call it a rumor, it's probably pretty close to true, is that Vince was like 3 seconds away from actually stopping the match because it was Shane.
Well, yeah, it's his son, and his son's bleeding profusely and leaving puddles everywhere.
And when he hit the glass and just cracked his head on the ground, like, it's like, oh, we have nope, not okay.
And I wouldn't be surprised if Vince was standing at Gorilla and somebody was probably
having to restrain him, like, no.
In front of him, Shane wanted to do this, let him do it.
Right.
If anything goes wrong, that's why the referee is there.
Yeah. Like, he's a professional, let him do it. Don't be a dad right now.
Right.
So, says something when you have to talk Vince McMahon down from when Vince McMahon's being the most reasonable person in the room.
Right.
Like, what world are we in? So, the finish of the match is Kurt puts Shane up on the top turnbuckle, finds a hunk of plywood from somewhere, cracks Shane with it, and then makes the world's most unstable platform on the top rope. It's so unstable. You see the ref, like, he's over there to try to, like, talk sense into these guys, but he's actually...
He's holding it.
Yes, he's holding this platform. Because Kurt then climbs the top rope, grabs Shane, sets him up for the Olympic Slam, and then hits the Olympic Slam off the top rope, standing on this platform. If you watch the board right after the move, it shoots out.
Yeah.
Like,
does it? As far as I remember, it almost goes into the crowd.
Right. It definitely ends up outside of the ring. I don't know why you needed that platform. That doesn't seem necessary to do that move.
No, it doesn't.
Like, you could have just picked Shane up, sat him on the top rope so he was facing out of the ring, gone up and hit the Olympic Slam, no problem. But
the one thing that I will say too is that I appreciate, during this time in WWE, they're doing a lot of stealing finishers.
Shane especially was. Yeah, Shane hit all... That was kind of Shane's thing, was big giant stunts and stealing finishers like he was in a SmackDown game.
Right. Like, he would... I mean, at this point in the match, he even goes through and does the angle slam.
Yeah, he hits an angle with the Olympic Slam.
And, again, there's, like, Stone Cold and The Rock.
Rock would steal the stunner.
And Stone Cold hits the rock bottom a couple of times.
Yep.
Like, that to me is always fun when you're like, oh shit, he just did his move.
Yeah, it's a really cool thing. I think New Japan does it a little bit better in kind of making it seem more strategic. But, I mean, that's because New Japan's a little bit more in-ring story-based, whereas WWE is a little just more about the cool-looking spot, which, is fine.
Yeah, I mean, when you have Naito come through and hit the Rainmaker on Okada, it's like,
yeah, or where Kenny actually bulked up from being a light heavyweight to a heavyweight and put on more mass so he could survive the Rainmaker better. So he could take the impact, which, it's just cool little bits of storytelling there. So Kurt gets the win with that Super Olympic Slam, which was cool.
Yeah, it's a cool spot.
Yeah.
And oh my gosh, we're not even at the main event yet.
No, that's the crazy thing. So, yeah, this match went 26 minutes, and then the final match also went about a half hour. The last two matches were considerably longer than everything else.
Yeah, but I mean, if you look at the workers who are in there, give them the time and you'll get some good stuff.
So, final of the evening was Jericho, Benoit, and Austin for the WWF Championship.
Which, I mean, if you're going to have three guys in the main event that aren't The Rock or Triple H,
who weren't available at the time.
Right. Like, I think you can put... Honestly, you could have put Stone Cold with anybody and they probably would have had a decent match.
Yeah.
But you throw him in with these two and it's like, holy shit.
Yeah. So the one thing to mention is... Crap, I forgot what I was just going to say.
Something about Benoit, I'm sure.
Oh, no, about Austin. Okay. So this was actually during the Austin heel turn, which everyone kind of hated. But, so throughout the course of the evening, Austin is like frantic to get a hold of Vince. And whether or not it fits the character, it was really good storytelling on Austin's part, I thought. Whether or not I liked the character, it was well done for the character they were trying to create.
Yeah, definitely.
So he's like very panicked. He's like, "Where's Vince? Where's Vince? Where's Vince?" It's like, "All right, well, when Vince gets here, tell him I'm looking for him." Well, when he gets here, tell him. And when Austin is coming to the ring, he walks out and then stops halfway down to the ring and is looking back, hoping Vince is going to walk out any second because he's all worried that one of these guys is going to win the title and then supposedly jump ship to WCW.
Spoiler alert: that doesn't happen.
Nope. Austin ends up retaining, but. Overall, match was decent. So Benoit went into this hurt.
Yeah, this was when he had just after this is when he had his first neck surgery, I believe.
Yeah, so he was going into this with a pinched nerve in his neck that was actually causing his right arm to atrophy a bit.
Ugh.
Which is actually the injury that ended Paul Orndorff's career.
Yeah.
So, good match. I don't know if there's anything really specific match-wise to really pull out of it. I mean, it was good.
I mean, again, you got shocking that it's good when you have Benoit, Jericho, and Austin in it.
They do the thing where previous on SmackDown, they had Jericho and Benoit put Austin in both their finishers at the same time.
Yeah.
They do it here, and it seems and Austin is tapping out. They're like, we have a new champ. But then the ref's like, you both have submission hold on. There can only be one champ. Right. We're going to keep going. Which, that's a cool little moment.
Yeah, they've done that more recently, too. I believe they did it with... the most recent one, I'm pretty sure, was with Benoit again. And I believe it was in one of those crazy setups for the U.S. title. Just before everything with Benoit happened.
Yeah, okay.
It was Benoit, and I think it was Fit Finlay who was using the cloverleaf at the time.
That would make sense.
And I'm pretty sure it was Booker T that they did it to, which, I mean, kind of cool.
Yeah, it's a cool little spot. So, finish of the match comes when, out of nowhere, we have the very first appearance of the WCW champion, Booker T. Austin's on the outside. Booker T runs in through the crowd. Jumps in, hits Austin with the scissors kick, and then picks him up and kind of belly to back suplexes him through a table.
Yep.
Through the announce table. Unfortunately, on the way down, Austin's hand clips a chair. Doesn't actually break it, but injures it badly enough that it puts Austin off TV for the next couple nights. And after it happens, you can see Austin protecting that hand.
Yeah. I mean, I could only assume that there was some pretty nasty muscle mess-ups in his hand.
Right. Very much injures it. Then after that, Jericho chucked Austin back in the ring, hits him with a moonsault. Benoit comes in, roughs up Jericho, takes Jericho up to the top and hits a belly-to-back suplex off the top rope, and Benoit breaks his own neck in the process. Just the way he lands was just real bad, and you can instantly see him clutching his neck as, like, uh-oh, something bad just happened.
Right.
And then everyone's just laying there dead in the ring, and Austin crawls over and pins Benoit, and it was super weird of an ending.
Yeah, it was one of those where you could even tell from the crowd, like, they were just kind of sitting there like, huh?
Oh, it ended?
We're done?
Yeah, there was no big finish to it. Like, I don't know if that was the planned ending. I don't know if that was suddenly improvised or what, but yeah, so Benoit suplexes Jericho. Everyone's just dead in the ring, and it takes a second or two. Austin crawls over, pins Benoit, and that's our finish.
I mean, again, okay. All right, I guess.
Yeah, so let's get to where the show kind of sits overall in the grand scheme of things for a minute. The reason that I was saying the matches on the show are great, but where it kind of fails and is remembered as actually a kind of a bad pay-per-view overall is we were in the middle of the Invasion. The Invasion doesn't come up at all.
No. Like, they mention Shane McMahon is the owner of WCW once or twice.
Booker T runs in.
And
that's it.
Yeah, there's nothing else.
Yeah, there was really no involvement of WCW at all. And if we're going to do an Invasion angle, you kind of need to show up and make these other guys look like WCW should have basically come in and run rampant on the place and been made to look like $1 million. And they weren't.
Yeah, especially if you're going to try to go through and do the whole WCW Raw thing.
Exactly. So, just in the grand scheme of things, it didn't further their bigger stories. It was fine as far as a WWF pay-per-view goes, but as far as WWF versus WCW, it really didn't do anything. In fact, it kind of hurt it and made it seem like it's not really a thing, which is business as usual for now.
Right. Which, if you're going to try to push this massive story like that, you might want to have a little bit more to do with it throughout more pay-per-views.
Right. And if anything, Undertaker just absolutely beating the living shit out of DDP and it not even being remotely a fight. That's the biggest WCW guy they got, except for Booker. And he just got absolutely stomped by Undertaker.
Yeah.
All right. On that note, overall, good show. Historically, a little bit iffy about what it actually got done, but as far as wrestling, great show.
Yeah, definitely. If you haven't seen it, go back and watch it just for the storytelling of the matches themselves.
Yeah, I will warn you, you may cringe a little bit watching the street fight. It's
if you don't, you're not human.
Exactly. That's the biggest thing is, back in the heyday of the Attitude Era, violence. Looking back, they're like, these guys narrowly escaped some real bad shit.
They could have died, so why don't we calm it down a bit?
Yep. So, all right. On that note, we're history.